It was a night without stars, the kind of night where the darkness feels alive, moving between the cracks of the houses and settling in the hearts of those still awake, and I was one of them, sitting by the crooked window of my grandmother's old house, staring at the empty road outside and waiting for something I could not name. The air was heavy with the scent of rain, yet the clouds refused to let it fall, and in that stillness I thought I heard footsteps, faint at first, then clearer, slow, deliberate, like someone who knew exactly where they were going. But when I leaned forward to see, there was no one there, only the empty path lit by the flickering lamp post at the far end, a lamp that had been broken for years and yet somehow glowed whenever the wind was strong, and I told myself it was just my imagination, though deep down I knew it wasn't, because the same sound had come every night for a week, always at the same time, always stopping right outside the house before disappearing. My grandmother had warned me not to listen. She said the road remembers things and sometimes those things want to be remembered by you. She never explained what that meant, and I never asked, partly because I thought it was just one of her old stories, and partly because I feared the answer would make me believe her. But that night, as the sound faded into the distance, I felt the urge to follow it, to see where it led, so I grabbed my coat and stepped outside. The cold bit into my skin instantly, and the silence was so complete that my own breathing sounded like a storm. I walked slowly, my shoes crunching against the gravel, and every shadow seemed to stretch towards me, whispering in shapes I could almost understand. The road wound past the edge of the village, where the trees grew tall and the air smelled of earth and damp wood. I had been here many times during the day, but at night it felt like a different world. The trees leaned over the path as if trying to block it, their branches tangling above my head, and somewhere in the darkness I thought I saw movement, not the quick darting of an animal but the slow deliberate motion of someone waiting to be noticed. I called out, my voice barely more than a breath, but nothing answered, only the soft rustle of leaves that somehow sounded like a sigh. I kept walking, deeper into the dark, until the path opened into a clearing I had never seen before. The grass here was short and pale, almost silver under the dim light of the sky, and in the center stood an old well, its stones worn smooth by time, the rope long gone but the wooden beam still in place, leaning slightly as though under some great weight. I approached it cautiously, peering over the edge, but the darkness inside was so complete that it felt like it was staring back at me, swallowing the faint light from above. And then I heard it, the sound of breathing, slow and deep, rising from the depths. My first instinct was to run, but my feet stayed rooted to the ground, and the longer I stood there, the louder the breathing became, until it matched my own, as if whatever was down there was trying to sync with me. I whispered hello without meaning to, and for a moment there was silence. Then a voice, faint and distant, said my name, not the way a stranger would say it, but the way my mother used to call me when I was a child, soft and filled with a kind of sadness I could not place. My heart pounded in my chest and my hands gripped the stone edge of the well, torn between the urge to lean closer and the urge to flee. The voice spoke again, asking me to help, saying it had been waiting for me for so long, and I found myself leaning forward despite every instinct screaming to stop. The darkness inside the well shifted, not like water, but like a shadow moving against another shadow, and I saw something glimmer, a reflection that could not have come from the dim light above. It was like an eye, though far too large and far too still to be human. I stumbled back, my heel catching on the grass, and I fell, the impact knocking the breath out of me. But when I looked back at the well, it was silent again, the breathing gone, the voice gone, only the faint echo of my name lingering in my head. I ran then, not caring about the noise, not caring about the cold. My only thought was to get back to the house, but the path felt longer than before, and the trees seemed closer, their branches scratching at my arms as if trying to hold me back. I finally burst out of the forest and onto the road, gasping for air, my legs burning, and when I reached the house, I slammed the door shut behind me, leaning against it as if something might try to follow. My grandmother was sitting at the table, her eyes fixed on me in a way that made me feel like she already knew where I had been. Without a word, she got up, took a small iron key from a drawer, and placed it in my hand. Her voice was calm but heavy when she said, "You should not have gone there, but since you have, you will need this." I asked her what it opened, but she only shook her head and said, "You will know when it is time." Then she went to her room and closed the door, leaving me alone with the key, the silence, and the memory of that voice. That night I could not sleep. Every creak of the old house made me flinch, and the key felt heavier than it should have. Lying on the table beside my bed, I thought about the well, about the way it seemed to pull at me, about the strange familiarity of the voice, and I wondered if I would hear it again. The next night I stayed inside, listening, but the footsteps did not come, nor the night after that, yet the absence felt worse, like the quiet before a storm. And on the seventh night, when the wind rose and the broken lamp post at the end of the road began to flicker again, I knew something was about to happen. The footsteps returned, but this time they did not stop outside the house. They kept going, heading towards the forest, slow and deliberate, and without thinking, I grabbed the key and followed. The night seemed to close around me more quickly this time, the trees looming taller, the path winding deeper, until I found myself back at the clearing, the well exactly as I had left it, yet somehow different, the stones darker, the air colder, and as I approached, I heard it again, my name, whispered. In that same sad voice, asking me to come closer. I stood at the edge, holding the key tightly, and I asked what it wanted. The voice said it wanted to be free, that it had been waiting for me to unlock the way, and though I did not understand, something in me believed it. I looked around but saw no lock, no door, only the darkness within, and then, without knowing why, I leaned forward and lowered the key into the well. The air shifted, a deep wind rising from below, and the ground beneath my feet trembled. The voice grew louder, speaking words I could not understand, the shadows in the well twisting like smoke, and for a moment I thought I saw a face, pale and gaunt, eyes like molten silver, staring up at me with a hunger that was not entirely human. I pulled the key back, my hands shaking, and the face vanished, replaced by silence so sudden it rang in my ears. I turned to leave, but the path was gone, the trees pressed in from all sides, and the only way forward was deeper into the dark. The forest felt endless now, the air thicker with every breath, the sound of my footsteps swallowed by the soil beneath me. I tried to keep calm, telling myself there had to be another way back, yet the trees were not the same as before, their trunks bent in strange angles, their bark marked with lines that almost looked like writing. I ran my fingers over one of them and felt a faint warmth, as if the tree was alive in a way I could understand, but the shapes meant nothing to me. Still they made me uneasy, because they seemed to shift when I looked away, as if they were sentences rearranging themselves until they formed something I might eventually read. I kept walking, the darkness